Hey everybody, welcome to the Alpha Initiative. My name is Travis. I'm joined here with Aaron and my brother Baruch. We're so glad you could join us. This is something that we've been working on for a long time, and as you hear us talk, you're going to hear some of the genesis behind it. But before that, I said it already, my name is Travis. Give you a little brief snapshot into who I am. I'm a retired senior non-commissioned officer from the United States Army. After that, I found myself in a very high-paying but very soul-crushing corporate job. So it wasn't too long into that before I said, okay, gotta go. Decided to bounce out, do my own thing. Now I'm a speaker and coach. I've got 4 kids, an awesome wife who, bless her heart, talk about resiliency, has been with me since 1997. So kudos to her. And I just could not be more happy to be presenting this content for you guys today. Aaron.
So, hey, Aaron Beller, and I'm likewise super happy to be here. I am a military officer, but I am a coach, and building this from the ground up, working with men who are high performers, who are doing all the things. Like Travis, resiliency has been a big part of my story. It's a part of my story now. We are here because of that. I'm here because of that. From the Tennessee area, building this business out, doing all the things. Super happy to be with you guys today.
My name is Baruch Dubrow. I am an Orthodox ordained rabbi. I was a teacher for over 15 years of my life. Educator first, teacher second. I'm a father to 3 children, married to a wonderful woman. And I am somebody who has always been outside the lines throughout life, growing up into various different communities, in the Jewish communities. And it's become the sort of thing where I've taken that, I've owned that. And now my thing is being strictly outside the lines. I help others to live their life strictly outside the lines. And we're here at a moment because this is a topic that needs to be dealt with. And men need to step up, stand up, and start living their lives outside the lines and taking care of themselves and taking care of their families. Excited to be here with these 2 awesome men, these 2 brothers of mine, and here to deliver some really great information, education, and content for you.
Awesome. So to give you guys an idea of where this all started, gosh, 6-7 months ago, some one-on-one conversations, not the 3 of us together, about losing some friends, right? And so military background, I was losing some folks. Aaron, some of the same situations, and then Baruch in his community, he was losing people at the same time. And then these separate conversations kind of converged into one. And so it was, the initial idea was like, man, men's suicide is just on the rise, has been for the last 5 years, statistically just keeps going up and up. That was the start point. And then the more we spent time in it, the more we dug into it, we realized as a society right now, we all kind of agree, and you probably will as well, that men just don't know how to do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And so through 6-7 months of conversations, really getting to the if you've got, a couple female friends that lean a little left, you're probably hearing a lot of this, right? But they want us to believe, men are passive, they're dumb, they're weak, they're just a paycheck, disposable, outdated, too aggressive. No one's ever said that about me.
Of course not.
No. Oppressive, chauvinistic, and then the big one that they've even coined it as a term now is toxic. And we've spent some time talking about this, guys. Like when we were growing up, even if you caught it in reruns, Dad, like there was a show called Father Knows Best. Yeah. Mike Brady, like he came in and was like, oh, like hit the brakes, right?
Right.
And so the idea of what a man was, even as it was shown on television, was something in line with what a man actually is. And now it's like everyone's Homer Simpson. Everyone's stupid. They don't know anything. They can't solve any problems. They're just in the way, right? And that's echoed in television with the mother and the children in the scenario.
Right. I think one of the worst parts about all this is that it's not just that the world is telling us that this is what a man is, that we as men have started to really believe this.
Right.
I was having a conversation with a wife the other night, and it came up that, like, in my opinion of myself, my role is to provide a paycheck and really nothing more. And she's like, no, I would rather you spend time with our kids and be intentional with us than going out and getting another job to provide more money. So we've come to believe these things, and we've internalized it and integrated it into our lives. And then we're miserable because, well, we're not being who we're called to be. We're not being who we're meant to be. We're not being how we were created to be.
Absolutely.
And would you rather have someone else, society, someone else tell you what a man is, or would you rather decide and know that for yourself, firmly, solidly, without being moved? This is who I am, because that's what you have to know and be to survive and thrive and be that alpha.
And in talking through all of this, it's like you were saying, it's so hard to not start to internalize it,
right?
Because it is everywhere you look. I mean, guys are just being inundated with this narrative that this is what you are. And if you even think the way you're biologically designed, you're toxic, right?
I guarantee even right now, some of you listening to this, you're feeling some anxiety over what we're talking about because you're not sure where we're going with this. Just hold on. It's all going to be okay. Simmer down. It's all good. This isn't a bashing anybody. This is about what does it truly mean to be the man you are designed, created, called, purposed to be. That's what this is about.
And you don't have to worry about me. I said 97, so I say whatever I want. And so what we want to look at is what really actually is a man, right? And these are, you may have your own list, but these are some that we think are paramount to really getting to the crux of what a man is supposed to be. And that's responsible, self-improving, rational, which I don't know if that can be difficult.
Yeah.
Chromosomal can make it hard.
Mostly
testosterone,
charged.
sure. But then strong, courageous, self-reliant, persistent, competitive, disciplined. Don't get me started. And honorable. And these are ones that we all discussed and talked through. And it's like, when I look at that list, I know you guys and you guys know me. I can tell you that these men do everything on that list, all 10 of these before 9 o'clock every morning. Guarantee it. And they probably did at least half of them in the last 30 seconds before they shut their eyes, before they went to bed last night.
And notice what's not on this list. Perfection. We're not about being perfect. We're about these things. This is what we're after.
And the incredible thing is you don't even realize that you are these and you have these and that you are capable of these. I remember a number of years back, I was part of a different coaching group, and everybody was really applying themselves and building their business and whatnot. And I'd always felt like I was not doing enough. And one guy came over to me, and he was one of the leaders of the group, and he kind of said to me, he said, the thing I admire most about you is that you're resilient. I said, I'm not resilient. He says, you've been part of this group for 5 years. Have you quit? I said, no. Have you ever given up on your family? No. Have you ever? And he started listing things. And we don't even realize it. So we don't realize that we're constantly improving. We don't realize that we're courageous. But we need a band of brothers. We need a group of people to point that out to us and say, hey, you really are this. And then you need to start internalizing it for yourself, looking at yourself and saying, well, heck, yeah, I am disciplined. I am honorable. I do have all these characteristics because it's there. It just needs to be uncovered.
And that, one of the things that's not on the list, but it tends to be just kind of indicative of men in general is, it's unfortunately is not called this, but what it is humility, right? But we tend to be hyper humble to the point where we don't give ourselves credit for anything. And that is just as dangerous as being boastful. And so let's talk about some of the things that get in the way of us walking out what we are intentionally designed to be, right? That list of 10 things that is an authentic man. Number one, okay, here's the thing. I'm going to give a disclaimer on this one because you guys know what I think. Ego is a two-sided coin, right? On one hand, I think it's absolutely essential that you have some form of ego. You need it, right? It's kind of like you're getting strapped before you walk out the door. You got to have some ego about you to function as a man on the planet. But it can be dangerous because that ego can so quickly turn into persona, or it can so quickly turn into, I don't want to reach out. And this is the one that I think when we put it on the list, we could all agree on, is that ego has a tendency to preclude us from raising our hand, from saying, I need, right? Because that's gonna hurt our reputation. And so that one gets in the way all the time. I mean, some examples, like there's plenty of them.
So when I think of ego with this, I think ego is when we think we're special. We're so special that we shouldn't be going through whatever we're going through. We're not special. We're unique.
Yeah.
There's a difference. You as a man are unique, but you're not special in that none of us are exempt from the experiences of this life. None of us throughout all of human history are exempt from those experiences, good or bad. But we are unique because there's only one of us. There will always only be one of us. There will never be another one of us. That makes you unique.
And the thing with ego, like that has been my biggest battle that I fought with myself, because I grew up in a way where I did not feel like I could have any form of a self-identity. It was knocked out of me. But at the same time, that just made it even stronger to have that ego. And, I told you gentlemen this story not too long ago is, as I mentioned in my intro, I was an educator for 15 years and I swore that was my path. That was my purpose. That was all I was going to do. And I had to have a real conversation with my wife. And she pointed out to me that because of my ego, because of what I believed was my purpose and my calling, I wasn't providing for my family. And so I had to set my ego aside and do what I said I would do, which was shovel manure. And I transitioned to a completely different job. And heck, now, thank God I'm killing it. Within 2 months, I was a top salesman in the company, and then they gave me a promotion. That doesn't happen.
Right.
But it happened because I was able to remove my ego and say, well, it's all about me. But then, as you're referencing, there is a part of ego that is a positive aspect, which is, I may not feel like I'm qualified for this, but I have innate skills and talents, and I have abilities that I've learned over the years that I can apply. And when you start applying your ego in a positive way, it's going to take you, to the world's end. And when you wouldn't have known it because you were too busy focusing on who am I right now? What do I think I need right now versus who else can I become? What else can I do?
Oh, that's huge. And that's such a perfect segue into number 2, right? This one I hate. I hate it because it happens even without us knowing it sometimes, is what we like to call letting the world should on you. And golly, like how often is that part of like your decision-making process, right? And you watching this, how many times in the week has someone said what you should do or what you're, what you think, oh, a man at this should do. I'll share a story just from this week. My son turned 18 and that's supposed to be a big celebration, all this excitement, right? And he's growing up with me as his pops and he was still like, I'm freaking out, Dad. I was like, why, dude? And he's like, because I'm supposed to do this and this. And like, who says?
Yeah.
Who said? He thinks at 18 he's supposed to have it all figured out. And I'll tell you guys exactly what I told him. I'm 41. I make this up every day, right? Most of what we do is made up 100%. On a daily basis. So you can't live in the structured box of what I should do because every day, every decision, every interaction is new and unique. And so often we get bogged down by the weight of what the world is saying we should do at any point in time in any situation.
Every man struggles with that.
100%.
At 18, 41, 52, every man struggles with that.
And the second we let go of other people's expectations, we tap into, okay, well, what is it that I need to do? What is it that I can do? Again, just happened the other day. For the last 2 years, ever since my family and I moved out of where we've been living for the last 6 years. We've been living in Dallas, Texas now for 2 years, trying to get my wife to go to synagogue, temple, be part of the community. And I got to the point where I realized, okay, stop, trying to get her to do things and just let her. And she said to me this week, she said, I should start going to temple more because I'll be able to meet more people. But it was when I stopped shoulding on her, you should do this, you should do that. And she was able to realize for herself that in her best interest, it's good to go and meet other people. That's when things change. So forget the world.
But that's such a crazy thing about the being should on or shitting on others is that so often it won't bypass your intellectual immune system. So even though the world is saying you should, you still don't because it's not your idea. It's not organic. And so then you just carry the weight of I'm doing nothing. I'm stagnant, right? Instead of what you said, identifying the needs and the cans and moving into those.
Right.
Huge difference. Last one on the list. Anyone want to take lead on this? Because I can go ham on this one.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think. And the truth is they're not thinking about you as much as you think they are.
No way.
They're really not. Again, You're unique. You're not that special. They're focused on their stuff. But somewhere along the lines, we start thinking, oh, they're talking about me. They're thinking about me. And they're not. And this comes down to some of those empowerment issues of figuring it out for yourself, what that internal dialogue is. But that's another piece that you'll get with us. But we spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think when the reality is they're not.
I mean, this was me for a very long time. And if I'm being totally honest, this still is me in many ways. Like, it's a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. But I lived for a very long period of my life. I lived as, what do other people think of me? What are they going to think of me? And what's crazy is it was my family that I cared the most about. What are they going to think about me? My father, my mother, my siblings. And I remember very clearly the first time that I made a decision going against my family, going against my parents, was when I decided to go spend some time in Hawaii working for one of the communities out there. And everybody was like, you do that, you're not going to get married, you're not going to be able to, all these bad things are going to happen. What are people going to think of you? And I said, well, you know what? Who cares what other people are going to think of me? I'm doing this because I feel the need to do it. It wasn't going to go and have a wonderful time in Hawaii. This was going to do some real work. Spend my first time on my own learning about myself. So oftentimes those people that care the most about us don't necessarily know what is best for us. And so we need to, it's not that we're only thinking about what do I need, what do I want, because that's also dangerous. But the reality is when we take other people out of the picture and it's what do I need, what do I want, so that I can do more for others, that's when we start heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And I mean, my take on what do others think about you is so much simpler.
Of course.
I do not care. I have a saying that you guys have heard me say, like, haters are just fans with crappy attitudes. So let them think, let them talk, do whatever. It's not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. And so then the question becomes, like, if these are the things that are weighing us down, if these are the things that are jamming us up, and this is the narrative that we're being force fed from all angles, how the hell do we fight back? And so we've got a short list, but it's comprehensive, and you'll see as we get into the content how comprehensive it becomes, but with actual skills and strategies, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's so many people in the space we occupy that they like to say it's all about mindset, bro. It's not all about mindset, bro. All right. It's about skill set. And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about. The last two, though, are huge. And I will tell you in the interest of full transparency, the three of us are living proof of these last two: community and building resilience. And so, like I said at the top, all three of us were experiencing loss simultaneously. And by bonding together, by coming together as what we like to call the trifecta of excellence now, we built a community, right? And then in that community, we shared skills, we shared strategy, we shared hardships, and that increased our resilience. And so it's crazy because now the three of us talk all the time now. Yeah. We meet once a week formally, but there's sidebars happening all the time. And just in our day-to-day, there's stuff that comes up where it's like, we can see a difference how we're handling whatever scenario comes our way.
Yeah. And I personally cannot underemphasize that piece of community and how important that is. Why? Because men, we suck at it. We're terrible about this. We have that island mentality. And listen, I'm a big John Wayne fan, love the Duke, but none of us are an island. And this doesn't happen by accident. You have to create this and you have to make community happen. And it's crucial for your success.
And the other thing is that it's not like community always has to be in person all the time. There have been multiple times that because of my conversations with Travis, because of my conversations with Aaron, if I'm going through something, I'll think to myself, okay, what would Travis tell me to do? What would Aaron do in this moment? And then I'm able to internalize what I've learned from having the community, having the brotherhood, and be able to apply it. So it's not, again, I know that at any moment, Travis and Aaron are there to pick up the phone. They will answer my questions whenever I need it. At the same time, I also know that because I have that community, because I have that support, I have the tools and I have the skills to move on and to do what needs to be done, to take care of the hard action.
We're actually getting bracelets made. What would Travis do? I mean, that's what's happening.
But I do want to share a story to dime you out in a positive light. There was a situation that happened probably 3 weeks ago, and you and I got on a call to, you were, having some issues with this particular situation. Yep. And all I did was quote back to you your social media post from that morning. Yep. And so what I'm getting at is in the time we're spending together, we know the answers now. Yeah. We just need to give ourselves permission to walk it out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that brings us to the first skill that we're going to talk about. And we would have to start with resiliency because that's like my entire jam. And so if you're on page 6 of your participant guide, you're going to see the resiliency myth. And so here's the thing. You have probably seen an analogy like this. I was forced to teach this analogy for much longer than I like to admit in the military. But the idea being to be resilient, you bounce, don't break, right? And you guys know how I feel about this. I hate this analogy because then in my brain, what I see, like a tennis ball hitting a brick wall, right? It just bounces off and goes the other way. And my brain, I'm hardwired to look at that and go, that's retreat. Mm-hmm. That's going away from where, and you're not going to build resiliency running away from your problems. You're not going to build the legacy you want to build. You're not going to build the career you want to build, the relationship you want to build from running away from those problems. And so that isn't how I look at resiliency. And so it's more of a smash through, right? You guys know how I feel about that. And like, I mean, you guys have seen this in your own lives. Like there's no way to go around things. You got to go through them, right?
Well, you know, one of the ways that I've looked at resiliency too is in the sense of buoyancy. You put a big old iron-hulled ship on the ocean and you think, man, that's iron. Iron shouldn't float. It does if it's buoyant. But what does it do? It harnesses that challenge. It harnesses those waves. It harnesses the ocean. That, you know, it's designed to sink the thing, but it harnesses that to push through, keep going. It has that buoyant resilience using that challenge, using those pain points to push forward, to be propelled forward.
And the incredible thing is that when you show this resiliency and it comes in the strangest of ways.
Yeah.
But when you show this resiliency, it changes your life almost immediately. And not only that, it starts impacting the way others look at their lives. Like, wait a second, like, again, Orthodox rabbi, what are you doing at a networking event in a Manhattan skyscraper at 10 o'clock at night? Like, that's not your place. But people will tell me that. They'll say, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Doesn't matter. I'm here because I'm here. I need to do what I need to do. And then it affects your life. It impacts the lives of those around you. And then other people start seeing that. So it's not bounce back. Because like you said, it's retreat. It's like, yeah, hey, let me hit a wall. I'm going to go back. I'm just going to keep coming. No, I'm going to break through all expectations that I have for myself, what I think I can or should do, and what everybody else has for me.
Absolutely. And so how do we do that? Right? There's a few ways we do that. My favorite being intentionally do hard things. Yeah. You know, I was sharing this with a client this week. Like, I get up early every day. I get up at 3:30 every day, not because I love it. Most days, I'm not excited the alarm's going off. Let's put it that way. Maybe some select curse words come out of my face, whatever. But I do it because I want to go down into my basement where the gym is at, the sauna's at. I want to do something hard on purpose before the day even starts. And when you start doing that, when you develop a habit of getting up and doing something physically laborious, or even if it's, you know, if meditation is hard for you or journaling is hard for you, whatever it is that just kind of kicks your ass, if you do that thing first every day and you accomplish it, by the time something difficult comes your way during the day, you're like, that's nothing. I already did the hard thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is maintain your big whys. And we're going to dig into a lot of that later on. But then back to the other one, develop actual skills. And that's what this is really all about. Like there's going to be a lot of theory throughout the content, a lot of statistics throughout the content. But really what we want your takeaway to be is actual, attainable, and usable skills that you can start using now. You know, stuff that is going to impact how you make decisions as soon as you're done watching this.
And I'll say that resiliency doesn't happen overnight. Like it takes you must do these things. Like you have to do the hard thing, and it takes time to develop. And there's going to be times when you're going to feel like you're smashing through, and then it forces you back, and you didn't quite get all the way through. Hang in there. Like that is where the resiliency comes in, and in developing resiliency. It's kind of funny how that happens.
Remember what was not on our list: perfection.
Yeah,
that wasn't on the list.
And there's a reason we bolded and highlighted the word skills, right? Because it is a skill and skills take practice. And so the more you do these things, the more proficient you're going to get. And so back to the analogy of the egg and the tennis ball, which I hate. We all kind of agree with this. We see it more like this, right? Like iron being forged. Because, you know, if you think of the process, the forging process, I'm not even going to sexy it up. It's a piece of metal getting set on fire, doused in freezing water and having the shit beat out of it over and over and over again. And that's the only way it can become hardened and then, lethal. And that's the same with us. That's the same with us as humans. The only way we're going to become resilient is by going through the hard thing, not by running away from it.
The only way through is through.
Yeah.
And so when we think about, okay, if we can all agree that that is the way to do it, what stops us? And the first thing that stops us from being resilient, from pushing through, is one of my favorite things to talk about. One of my least favorite things that exist is catastrophic thinking. And just to give you the definition, I know you guys can see it in your participant guide, but it's when we waste critical energy worrying about the irrational worst case outcomes of a situation, which prevents us from taking, big bold letters, purposeful action. And the times it happens, and these are, again, when you see this list, this is every single day before lunch, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's when the situation is ambiguous, when something you value is at stake, when you're tired or depleted. No guys are ever tired or depleted.
Oh, no.
No. We're all always energetic.
Ready to rock.
I'm always this chipper in the morning.
100%. We are not drinking lots of coffee. You already fear the situation. It's okay to cop to being afraid here, by the way. Or it's your first time doing something. So I can tell you in my previous life, and even now, look, I could use my previous life as a retired infantry soldier as, yep, that's every day, right? But you know what else is every day? Being a dad, being a husband. And how many situations, because you guys both have families, how many situations with kiddos is ambiguous?
This just happened.
You're in the other room and you hear, Dad, oh no. You
It's
just
all
hit
in
the
the
whole
tone.
list. You hit
It's
the
all in
whole
the tone.
list.
Not now.
No, but this just happened. This just happened to my family right before we sat down to do this. My youngest, the 1.5-year-old, got some sort of virus, and I'm going, okay, what's going to happen? Is he going to heal in time? Is he not going to heal in time? What's going to happen from there? Something I value is at stake. This is my child. This is my child's health. Do I still go to my trip, or do I stay behind? All these things. We were definitely tired and depleted because, we're parents. We're
Right,
1.5-year-old. And the crazy thing is, even number 5, it's your first time. This wasn't our first time dealing with a child that had fever or was ill. We've dealt with them many times before, but every time it feels like the first time, and we forget that, no, we're equipped for this. We've done this so many times before. So, but it's that catastrophic thinking. So that way, when my daughter just got sick, the day after my son healed, it's like, okay, not going to catastrophize anymore because we've been there, done that. Let's just walk through it. We have the skills that we need. We have the tools that we need to do this. So we're just going to get this done. And you know what? Lo and behold, she wakes up today and she's all better.
And gents, is life itself not ambiguous? I mean,
100%.
life is ambiguous. Think of, whenever you're listening to this, just think about what's going on in the world right now, whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
It's ambiguous, and that can cause all kinds of fear, catastrophic thinking, worst case scenario. And going back to the whole reason why we're doing this, the one thing you have control over is you. You creating who you are. That's how you deal with this. But life is ambiguous. You and I, the 3 gentlemen here, we're not able to control that. You're not able to control that.
At the end of the day, you will never know what's going to happen and what's going to come next, because even if you plan as much as you can, something else will happen. So you may as well just go along for the ride and build your skill set up, build your tool set up, so that way you can deal with it, whatever comes up.
And so when it comes to dealing with catastrophic thinking, one of the first things you've got to do, like any problem set, is identify it. And catastrophic thinking is unique in as much as you can really dial it down into one of 3 types of catastrophic thinking. However, because we're all unique, I actually subscribe. I fall into 2 of them. Okay. And so I think a lot of people do. But if you see them on page 10, you're going to see the 3 types of catastrophic thinking and what they are. We're going to talk through them briefly, and then I'll dime myself out which 2 that I go through. But there's downward spiral, there's scattershot, and there's circling. So downward spiral is pretty much what it sounds like, right? There's an activating event that happens, and then every time you loop back to in your head, it just gets worse and worse. That worst case scenario just keeps getting worse.
Yep.
Scattershot is you've got the activated event, you've got the problem, and because of that, you can't focus on anything. You're just kind of all over the map. And then circling, weird analogy, I'm going to date myself a little bit. You guys remember DuckTales?
Absolutely.
All right. So, when Scrooge McDuck would get nervous about something, he'd go into his money room and he had that statue he would just walk around. Yep. That's circling. That is the best analogy of circling. There's a problem and you're doing nothing. You're just walking around that bad boy all day. Now, what I have found in teaching this content and being a human on the planet every day is I actually fall into two of these. And I think a lot of people probably do. I am downward spiral and circling. Yep. And so what it means is I can start moving to something else, but I circle back to that problem. And every time I get back to it, it's a bit worse and a bit worse and a bit worse. And before you know it, because I was 5 minutes late picking somebody up from school, I'm going to be the reason that a plane crashed in Indochina. And, like that's where it goes for me, right? It goes totally off the rails. What about you guys?
I'm definitely scattershot and circling. Okay. I mean, I can be all over the map with my thoughts, no coherency to them. And the circling, I can run around that thing all day long.
I definitely feel a brotherhood here. I'm downward spiral and circling as well. Those are the two things. I would love to throw some scattershot in there just because why not have the trifecta? But it's definitely things are getting worse, or I'm just hitting the same problem. And then because of the skills that we've learned and we've developed, now we're able to get out of that. And now it's okay, wait a second. Like as I'm doing my circle, I see that there's something better over there. So now I'm going to aim towards that.
And so what I want to do, in your participant guide, you're going to see some homework, right? This is just a little check on learning for you, some time to spend. So go ahead and do that when you get a chance. But because we're already in it, I want to go ahead and skip on to how we're going to fix this problem of catastrophic thinking. And you may have heard something like this before. I have a little bit different way of the way we describe the problem. But you just have to realign your perspective. That sounds so much easier than it really is. I promise you, it sounds so much easier. But think about a time when you've woken up, something happens, and it's like the worst. Like the one I like to use all the time is because you don't see this one coming, right? You get out of bed and you stub your toe.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing. I'm going to tell you guys this to your faces, so lean in and listen close. Trauma is trauma is trauma is trauma. Okay. So I've been shot at and blown up a bunch. This guy's been deployed a bunch. You've been through a whole bunch of different life stuff. The way those neural pathways are carved are the exact same way. So if I get blown up Tuesday at 6 a.m. and Aaron stubs his toe Tuesday at 6 a.m., our brains process that information the exact same way. All right. So the point being, things that suck. Okay. And so that's what we're talking about. The worst thing ever happens. There's nothing we can do about it, and it's never going to get any better. If you've stubbed your toe at 6 o'clock in the morning, that is how you feel. Right. That is how you feel. This is the worst thing ever. It's never going to get any better. And you're not alone, right? That's totally, totally normal. Like, give me an example. Stubbing your toe is low-hanging fruit, I know. But what's a time when you guys have had just even something innocuous, and it was like, just kind of jammed you up?
I walked into my classroom and one of my students goes, "Hi, Rabbi Dubrow." I'm like, great. The day is being set up like, you're going to lead with that? Thank you. But that was my day pretty much all day, every day for a good part, and especially the last 2 years. But that was it. And it's having to shift focus from, it's that one student. He's crying for attention. He needs some love, and I've got a job to do, and I'm going to move on with my life, move on with my day, and show up as the best possible teacher that I possibly can be. Because that is the stubbing toe in my day-to-day occurrence. So that cannot control my day. That cannot control that one little thing. Sure, it hurts. Sure, it sucks. It's annoying as heck. But life has to go on, and I have to go on.
And that's the problem with catastrophizing is we can't make that switch. We'll get stuck in it super quick. The good news is you're not alone. As you've seen, we all go through this. But here's the why behind it, okay? Because I think people like to, if they hear this, they go, you're a negative Nancy or, whatever, like you're a pessimist. You're not. You're a human being, okay? You have caveman DNA in you, okay? And so defaulting to the worst case is actually a genetic default. It's just how we're designed. It's the thing, if you go to the next one, it kept us alive. Like this was the thing that stopped us from getting our arms torn off by Gigantopithecus, right? It was the thing that made us look at the little glowing eyes in the bushes and go, it might not be my friend, right? Defaulting to worst case kept us alive. The trick is to not get stuck there. Now, here's something I'm going to do real quick that's going to probably piss off other coaches. I'm so okay with that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
You don't care what other people think?
I don't.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I said don't get stuck in it. You've probably heard a coach or a motivator say something, maybe it was at a conference, maybe during a keynote, maybe during a podcast, they go, I want you to sit in that for a while. And they do the lean in, right? Sit in that. Shut up. Do not sit in it. Okay. If you got your car stuck in the mud and you called a tow truck driver and he was like, well, I think we're just going to let it sit there for a while. Like, you're an idiot. Why would we do that? That's the dumbest advice I've ever heard. The same thing with this skin wagon that you're dragging through the planet with you. Okay. Don't get stuck in the funk. The whole purpose is to get out of catastrophic thinking as soon as possible.
And if you're in a place where you think, yeah, but I am stuck, I don't know how to, and we'll get into this, but that's an identity issue. That's because if you are ambiguous, that's different from life being ambiguous. If you're not sure, that's different from life feeling unsure. So that's what this is about, is doing a lot of work on how do you get unstuck. So hang with us on it.
Well, I'll dime myself out on this because this literally just happened
Right.
to us. You were hoping for this, weren't you?
No.
No.
We know each other's dirty secrets, all of them.
But this just happened with me. That there was a lot of events going on, and I took a lot of them personally, and I forced myself to be stuck in it. Like, sure, I'm all for feeling things, but then if you know that you have the tools and the ability to get out, get the heck out. And I had the tools and I had the abilities because I have these guys. But I was stuck in this thing, and I said things that I really shouldn't have said. And Travis called me out, and he's like, hey, man, that's not you. Like, that really is not who you are and who you're showing up to the world to be. And it took me about a week to process all of that. But once I did, and I realized, well, heck, what? Like, that was not me showing up at that moment. But I was stuck in it, and I allowed myself to be stuck in it. I allowed other people. Not only was I now stuck in the mud, but I was letting other people pour mud on me. So I was just getting even more and more stuck. And it wasn't until I took that step back and said, you know what do I have available for me? Who are the people that care? And I reached out to them, and they were able to realign perspective. So it's extremely important to understand that you do have the tools, you do have the resources, you do have the ability. You just have to remember that. And then you have to take that step forward and get yourself out of there, because nobody likes sitting in manure.
But that's such a great example. And I'm going to kind of piggyback off it a little bit, because the initial thing that you were stuck in was emotionally charged.
Yeah.
Then me calling you out on it elicited another emotional response.
Absolutely.
And so that is 90% of what gets us stuck, is some kind of emotional attachment.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny because you're sharing this story as I did it too, but you actually showed resiliency 3 times over because you were stuck in the emotion of whatever, but you didn't let yourself stay there.
Right.
And I called you out, and then you were pissed at me, straight up. Like, he was pissed at me, but you didn't let yourself.
Pissed at him.
That's why I'm having to sit between the two of them.
But you didn't let yourself get stuck there either.
Right.
You did the hard work to realign things, to establish what we're getting ready to talk about, and work through it. And now everything's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and there was learning on all parts. Like, no one, so that is exactly what we're going after here with how we realign our perspective.
And to add one more thing, the reason why I share so many personal stories is I don't have the extensive experience in military and all the cool back stuff that you guys do. I'm just your okay. I'm just your average Joe, right? I grew up a fairly normal life. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about anybody, like you said. But the point is that I share these stories because if a regular guy who moved around his life can do and can experience these normal things and can get out of it by the help of guys who, yes, they have this amazing, cool background. You don't need necessarily that. It's just the fact that you have people to reach out to. So anybody can really do this, and that is the point of this.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's kind of back to that trauma is trauma thing.
Yeah.
I'll share a quick story. I'll do the abridged version. It was during my second deployment, and we were doing an operation called Operation Arrowhead Ripper. You guys may have heard this story before, but it had been several days since I was able to call home, and Jess knew it was a sketchy situation, and we had kind of like a code. Like, it's going to be a while before I could call. She's like, oh, you might die, right? That was kind of the code. And so I finally got a chance to call home, and she just downloads, because my now 18-year-old was 18 months at the time,
Oh, wow.
just downloads for 20 minutes about leave by this, leave by that, leave by the other thing. And I just listened and had a conversation with her. And then she apologizes at the end. She says, I'm so sorry that I did that. That what I'm doing today has no comparison to what you're doing. And this is me picking on you a little bit.
Yeah.
And I told her that hardship is relative to life experience.
Absolutely.
And, if anything, I felt bad for her. I was like, I've got a lot of insurgents to worry about, but I can shoot them.
Yeah.
You've got one. but you've got to feed him. You've got to keep him alive. Like that's way worse.
Yep.
You know, I can take final solution action with these kids. You got to. So it's one of those things. It's relative to life experience. So if you're watching this going, oh, I didn't deploy or I didn't whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't mean that Tuesday doesn't kick your ass a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Every single time.
And so what we want to do to get out of catastrophic thinking is we want to realign our perspective. And because we're guys and we like to shoot things, we're going to describe this as kind of like a range fan, right? And so we're just going to get into exactly how to do it. The first thing you need to do is establish your left and right limits. But how do we do that? Now, this is step by step for a reason, and you have to do the steps in order. I know I don't like that much structure either, but this is important. Number one is describe the activating event. Really describe what the hell it is that's got you jammed up. Number two, this verbiage is so intentional, and you guys know this. Capture the worst case thoughts. Like a freaking, like you're Egon and you're throwing a ghost trap out there. Capture those freaking worst case thoughts. Don't let them keep floating around. Don't let them get in a spiral. Number three, this is also intentional verbiage, generate best case thoughts. The reason we use generate here is because it's not going to come easy. You're going to have to, this is where the work happens. Number four, identify the most likely. And then number five is develop a plan for dealing with the most likely outcomes. I mean, this is something that you do it all the time, but you don't know you do it. And so when life throws you a curveball, you forget that you know how to do this in a lot of ways, right?
100%.
And so I'm going to do it. We're going to do a walkthrough on this one. I'm going to use an analogy that is also going to date me, but that's okay. So let's work through this real quick as a group. You guys can help me out.
Yep.
You wake up and you stayed at a friend's house and you see that your car is gone. All right. What's the worst case?
Somebody stole my car.
Okay. Here's the thing. Because catastrophic thinking likes to go hard in the paint, and what I'm going to have you do in a moment is going hard the other direction, we're going to go crazy with this. So not only, Aaron, did someone steal your car, but they happened to steal your white Bronco and are now in a slow speed pursuit down I-5 in California. Okay? And there might be isotoner gloves involved. That's the worst case scenario.
That's bad.
They're looking for you and you don't know why. Okay? That's worst case. So now let's generate a best case.
Best case scenario, you were out at the bar drinking with your friends. You decided to be smart and safe and leave the car behind and got a ride back with your friends and you just don't remember it.
I mean, that would be a good scenario. I'm not going to take away points for that. But
that's
again,
best case.
We want to go crazy with it, right? Okay. So here's the analogy I used to use that I know is going to date me. You guys remember the show Pimp My Ride?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what if, best case scenario, Exhibit heard that you like slushies and he's got your 76 Pinto at Pimp My Ride West Coast Customs putting a slushy machine in the back. Now look at Baruch. What just happened? He laughed. And
I'm just wondering if he's making it kosher or not.
Of course he is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But the whole point of generating that best case is to go so crazy with it that it makes you laugh. It elicits a new emotion, and that shocks us out of that catastrophic thinking. Now what we've done is we've established our left and right limits, and we tell ourselves, okay, probably not in a low-speed chase on I-5 in California. Probably not at West Coast Customs with Exhibit getting a kosher slushy maker in the back. The reality is it's somewhere in the middle, and that's where your most likely is at. And once you identify the most likely, you can start making a plan to deal with those things.
Yeah. And again, it's the day-to-day life things. Like at work, you're being called into the boss's office. Worst case scenario, I'm getting fired and being told that I have to pay back all the money that they paid me up until now for whatever reason. Best case scenario, they're making me the new CEO. Most likely wants to talk to you, maybe give you a promotion, maybe give you some feedback, whatever it may be. With your family, it's that same idea. My kid's throwing a fit. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, most likely. It's the day-to-day things that will trip us up, that when we just realign, and we did this not too long ago with one of the things that I was working on.
And if you're not picking up on it, I'm going to point it out. When it comes to trauma and catastrophic thinking, that is always going to be associated with it.
Yeah.
This is a skill you can do when you start feeling all those feelings, when you start feeling that anxiety, those threats. Stop and do this. What's worst case scenario? what's absolute best case scenario, but what's most likely in this. This is a way of capturing that catastrophic thinking and really even some of those emotions that are always going to be associated with that catastrophic thinking.
And like we said up top, everything we're going to be discussing throughout all the content is skill-based stuff. And I can tell you that whatever it is on that list of 5 things, whether it's the first time doing something ambiguous, something you hold, at value is at stake, whatever one of it is, I can tell you that your skills are going to improve at different speeds for different things. I can tell you myself, like there are certain times where the activating event will happen. I'm like, boom, that's it. Worst case, in less than 5 seconds mentally, I've processed the juice and I'm good to go. Then there's other things, maybe it's a big business thing. Maybe it's a big life decision thing. Maybe it's something with the kiddos and I'm a pacer. I'm not a circler like Scrooge, but Jess will watch me do it 15 minutes, pacing back and forth, and I'll just verbalize every bit of it, right? Whatever you've got to do it, make the time and the space to do it. Because if you try and move into that problem set, if you try to even go towards that activate event before you've decided, okay, it's not worst case, not best case, somewhere in the middle, you're going to get stuck in the emotion of it. You're going to get stuck in the fear of it. And you don't want to carry that into your decision-making process.
And there's something there that you mentioned. I don't know if everybody picked up on it, but you said when you do your pacing, just as they're watching,
100%.
She sees it, she picks up on it, but you're also verbalizing. That is the thing. We try so hard to keep it all inside, keep it mental. No. Exert it physically. Get it out of your system. Yeah. And there needs to be somebody else there that you can just brain dump to. Like, I used to hate venting. Like, to me, venting is the worst thing you could possibly do. Solve the problem.
Right.
But venting is so extremely important, especially for my wife. She needs to vent. And the thing about that is she doesn't need me to solve things. She just needs to verbalize and express what's going on, and then she can move on. And here's what I learned. I need a vent too.
Right.
I need time where I can just dump whatever's on my mind, and then I can move on, and then I can solve. But I think it's important to have that factor of getting it out there and having somebody else there to support you. Not that you're going back and you're staying stuck in it. No, you're shaking the mud off. You're getting rid of it. You're moving on. And
I'm going to add something that we hadn't even discussed, but it's so important to what we're saying right now. You guys have heard me say it. I think I said it to you last, but I say this to my kids. I say this to my wife, because like you said, as men, we are hardwired to fix the problem, right? Yeah. Or, see the hill, take the hill, Hulk smash. That's kind of what we do. And so if someone comes to us I'm in vent mode, we want to go into problem solving mode.
Yep.
And so a powerful question that you can inculcate into how you do your interpersonal communication is when someone starts going with that, what I call diarrhea of the mouth, when they start really letting it fly, just pause them real quick. Go, hey, is this a fix it situation or a shut up and listen situation?
Yep.
And I think the last time I asked you go, it's kind of both. I go, okay, go ahead. Yeah. Right. And sometimes it's going to be kind of both. But if you're talking with other dudes or anybody, you need to put up front, hey, is this you want me to fix it thing, or is this a shut up and listen thing? And it makes a huge difference how that communication goes after that.
Even guys need to vent.
100%.
And even guys need to not even guys, like especially, like we need to let it go. That's that idea of, men keep everything inside. Men don't need to share anything. Hell no. We do need to share. We do need to express. It needs to be done in the right environment. And it's not necessarily to your spouse or to your partner. They may not be the best person, but you do need to get it out. Otherwise, you're holding it in and you're just going to explode.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, it's very important to identify the who. Like I know that I know. Look, let's be real. We're guys. We're talking. There's different language here.
100%.
Now, Jess and I might be the exception to the rule because she's known me for forever. So there's no filter there. But there are ways we can communicate with just guys that we won't feel comfortable communicating with a spouse, with a mother, even with our fathers, And so it's important to have this kind of network that you can just say it plainly. Just say it the way it falls out of your face, because that's the most organic. That's the most therapeutic. That's the way it's going to actually purge all that stuff.
I mean, look, I'll own it with these guys. There's been things that I've said their response, they've given me their response, and I'm like, okay, all right, lay it on me. Go ahead. I mean, that's the beauty of this. That's the space. That's the sacred space that we're talking about in building that kind of community.
Absolutely.
So just to recap, because this is going to bring us to the end of the Alpha Initiative Masterclass. So hopefully you guys dug it so far, but just a brief recap. you are not the narrative that's being espoused.
Yeah.
You are not this stupid, toxic, chauvinistic, the things that I'm going to say it in a woo-woo way. Okay. The things that make you a man are uniquely freaking beautiful, and you should embrace the hell out of them. Don't let anybody who isn't one of us tell you that it's toxic to be a guy. You're not those things. All right. Don't let the world should all over you. And if it starts to, and it throws you a freaking curveball, don't get stuck in catastrophic thinking. Realign your perspective and then go kick the day's ass, right? That's what this is about. This is about boldly embracing what it is to be a man and bringing it back to being the apex predators that we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And gentlemen, you matter. And that doesn't take anything away from anybody else.
Yeah.
To say that you have value, and don't take that away from yourself either. You got enough things out there trying to take that from you. Don't give it away. Don't give it away to the bully on the playground. You matter. You have value. You're important. And that doesn't take a thing away from any other person on the planet.
At the end of the day, being a man, it's about the balance between being kind and caring and soft and being this guy who's ready to go to war. And at the middle of all that, you are the balance. So you need to take care of yourself. We always like to say, you know what? No, I got to put my family first. I got to put these people first. No, you need to take care of yourself first. And if you're not truly taking care of yourself, and it doesn't necessarily mean going out and getting ice cream. Sometimes it does. But there's so much more to the care that needs to go into you. And at the end of the day, you're not special, but you are unique and you are qualified. And whatever you feel you're not qualified for, dig deep, find it within yourself, or go out and get the skills. But as Travis, as you mentioned many times, before you, there are so many other generations, hundreds of thousands of people that came before you to create you, to make you, and to put you in this place where you are right now. It's now your turn to step up and to continue that. And who cares if you screw up along the way? That's part of life. That is going to be the battle wounds, the scars that you're going to take with you, but they're going to be sources of pride. And it's going to be lessons that you're going to be able to teach your kids and your family and the generations to come. So at the end of the day, just know that you are enough, that you matter,